politicians. Issues including the expansion of energy-hungry data centers, obscure surcharges on bills and clean energy mandates are capturing the attention of frustrated consumers. October 15, 2025. 8 minutes. Summary. 1761. Power transmission lines near an Amazon Web Services data center in Manassas, Virginia, July 9. Nathan Howard, Bloomberg. Getty Images. By Evan Halper. Anger over soaring utility bills is shaking political fault lines, as electricity shortages and price spikes take center stage in nationally watched gubernatorial races in New Jersey and Virginia, and threaten to haunt candidates throughout the country in next year's midterm elections. Get a curated selection of 10 of our best stories in your inbox every weekend. Cheap, reliable electricity is no longer a given, with an energy crunch taking hold far and wide, and forecasts showing no price relief in sight. Average bills have jumped over 10% since last year in more than a dozen states, with some seeing increases beyond 20%, and more rate hikes have already been announced. Voters are demanding solutions, bringing to the forefront issues that long simmered in the political background, including the massive expansion of energy-hungry data centers, obscure surcharges on electric bills and mandates for clean energy generation. People knew a problem was coming, but nobody expected it to emerge so sharply and quickly, said Dan Casino, executive director of the Fairleigh Dickinson University poll, which has tracked New Jersey voter opinion on rising energy prices. He said voters are confused about whom to blame, often pointing the finger at power companies or regulations that are not necessarily the driving forces behind rates going up. Follow Trump's second term. Follow. Both Republicans and Democrats see potential to turn ratepayer angst on their opponents, but candidates are finding assigning blame a challenge amid voter confusion over the causes. Casino said there is a common theme in how voters are thinking about the issue. It is one thing people feel like their governor should have leverage to control. Voters in GOP strongholds such as Ohio, Indiana, and Louisiana are among those hit hardest, putting President Donald Trump's allies on the defensive in the run-up to next year's midterm elections as his cuts to energy programs drive prices up further. In Utah, where rates are also rising fast, Republican Governor Spencer Cox lashed out at the Trump administration in a post on X, saying its decision to cancel a massive solar project in the Nevada desert is how we lose the AI/energy arms race with China. Voters in New Jersey and Virginia, who will choose new governors in November, are equally annoyed, campaign officials said, making electricity prices a key issue in states where Democrats have heavily influenced energy policy. Summer rates jumped 21% in New Jersey, according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, and rates for most Virginians will go up an average of 15% under increases utility Dominion plans to cover rising fuel costs and infrastructure upgrades. Candidates in those two states are promising dramatic interventions in energy markets that are unaccustomed to political interference, including freezing prices by declaring an emergency, controlling data center development, abandoning clean energy pacts with other states, shaking up regional power grid operators and fast-tracking new power plants. AI icon. It is absurd, said Maureen Harrison, a 30-year-old nurse in Waynesboro, Virginia, who wrote to state regulators protesting the planned rate hike by Dominion that will cost the average customer about $20 per month. These big utility companies are making money hand over fist. The money is there. Take care of it. Why is it always coming out of our pockets? Residential rates are creeping up in Virginia amid the state's boom in data centers that are supporting artificial intelligence. Studies reach conflicting conclusions over the role of those data centers in everyone else's rates, with Dominion pointing to a state study that found they risk pushing prices up in the future but have not yet. But Harrison has made up her mind. She says the tech companies building them need to pay for more of the new energy infrastructure they require. An Amazon Web Services data center in Ashburn, Virginia, on September 23. Jim Lowe Scalzo/EPA/Shutterstock. It is part of this trend where every time these big companies and monopolies have a problem, they say, "Shoot, we can't figure this out." You are going to have to pay more, Harrison said. The rate hikes come at the same time her healthcare premiums are going up far more than the 3% raise she got at work this year. Harrison is voting for Democratic nominee Abigail Spanberger, who she is confident will put more regulations in place to protect consumers. Spanberger has suggested on the campaign trail that data center companies are not paying their fair share and that Trump's attacks on clean energy projects will lead to more price hikes. Not all Virginia voters perceive the problem that way. Clean energy is driving our bills out of control, said Daniel Lefebvre, a 68-year-old in Tyson's Corner who plans to vote for Republican gubernatorial nominee Lieutenant Governor Winsome O. Sears. Like O. Sears, Lefebvre blames price spikes on liberal energy policies. Lefebvre believes they were foisted on the state. The confusion over why bills are going up is pushing voters to learn more about the power grid than they ever cared to know. While it is nice to have so much public interest and engagement in the grid, it is unfortunate that the reason is because prices are so high, said Paige Lambermont, a research fellow at the Competitive Enterprise Institute, a nonprofit that advocates fossil fuel expansion and against what it calls climate alarmism. The experts are hardly bringing voters clarity. CEI points the finger at clean energy, noting it requires costly upgrades to the power grid that fall on ratepayers. Harvard energy scholar Ari Pascoe is unconvinced, pointing out that clean power is generally cheaper to produce than fossil fuels, and wholesale. Across several countries, energy prices have become one of the most politically explosive issues of the year. What began as a cost-of-living concern has now escalated into full-blown voter anger, with households blaming political leaders for failing to curb soaring electricity bills. For many families, monthly utility payments have doubled, or in some cases tripled, compared with just a few years ago, placing heavy pressure on already stretched budgets. The backlash is particularly intense in regions where governments promised rate relief but delivered little tangible change. Voters are increasingly convinced that rising energy costs are not simply the result of market fluctuations, but of political mismanagement, stalled infrastructure reforms, and poor oversight of utility providers. This frustration has led to protests, heated town hall confrontations, and declining approval ratings for incumbents. The issue is reshaping electoral dynamics. Candidates who previously campaigned on foreign policy, immigration, or social issues are now being forced to address electricity affordability as a top priority. Some are proposing subsidies or temporary price caps, while others advocate for long-term structural reforms such as renewable energy expansion or renegotiation of power contracts. Yet critics argue that many of these plans come too late, and that leaders waited to act until the crisis became politically damaging. At its core, the surge in energy prices highlights a widening trust gap between citizens and their governments. Voters increasingly feel they are paying the price for policy failures, while utility companies continue to post profits. As election seasons approach,